Welcome to But Jesus Drank Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
In this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out,
but actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
You look so pretty today, babe.
Well, thanks. I'm cleanish.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
Little makeup goes a long way, right?
It does. It does. Thank the Lord for makeup.
I have to tell you, this is the airline will remain nameless, but
no. What happened?
know. I was flying back on Sunday from a lovely little getaway with a girlfriend in northern Michigan. And on the headrest, as we're at the gate, everyone's kind of deplaning, the ad on every single headrest was a portion, it was a little can of wine and a little glass of wine. And it's, a portion of your proceeds today goes to support breast cancer research.
No.
Yes. I knew I'd get you fired up. Yes, I took a picture. I could not believe it. I'm like, the irony of this is mind-blowing. And
I can't.
I know.
I actually can't. It just infuriates me.
So on every single headrest of this giant, what are the big airplanes? I don't know, 727. I don't know what they're called.
747?
27 or 747?
I don't know.
I don't know. The big ones. So meaning there are a bajillion headrests and the ad. And so it's like a little pink can with the little pink glass and the little pink, whatever. And, a portion of your proceeds from your purchase goes to breast cancer research, to support breast cancer research. It's like,
believe that.
Or don't buy the wine and save your money, save your health, and we won't need as much breast cancer research because we're not ingesting the thing that actually is causing the need for breast cancer research.
It's literally mind-blowing to me. And I was actually wondering, I was doing some Googling the other day, just wondering if this had slowed down because of what we know now. But it hasn't. It hasn't. Which is mind-blowing when you have the Breast Cancer Federation and all the federations and all the things are saying that there's a direct link, right?
Yes.
There's a direct link. And we're both in our pink today. And we also need to wear our pink when Sam comes on and we talk about this.
Yes,
for that episode. But I cannot believe that.
It's not that. This is not that episode that we're talking about.
Sorry, guys. We're really confusing. We have a different topic today.
But I literally saved this to when we hit record because I knew Christy would get fired up because I was so fired up. I'm like, this is. And then I'm also thinking about what is so, and then we can move on to the actual topic of boredom. So let's start with something spicy and then move into boredom, right? But I'm thinking about how just the way that ad is positioned and in a way that nobody's doing their own thing at that time. We're all just standing there waiting to deplane. So it's prime time to read what is on the screen in front of you. Nobody's taking phone calls. Nobody's reading their own books. It's that idle time. And how many kids are standing around just that is how subtle and how effective that kind of marketing and conditioning is. That wasn't around when I was little. That's how much more is going to be set in front of our kids. And I was like, oh my gosh, Christy's going to love that. So
yeah. Speaking of what wasn't, and let's just keep going off topic, but it's okay. I was just on the phone with a client and we were talking about Halloween coming up and how I was I actually have residual post-traumatic stress when I think about walking the streets of London with a massive jug of wine while the kids are darting in front of traffic and everybody's dressed in really scary. By the way, in England, they didn't understand the memo of Halloween can also be I never dressed up as anything scary, ever. I was a fairy princess and a cheerleader and a bride. You know what I mean? But at Homecoming Queen, I was never anything with blood or gore or anything. In England, everything is scary and bloody and gross, and even little kids. and it's not okay. And I have a lot to say about that, but my point is that when I was trick-or-treating as a homecoming queen at like 10 years old, my mom
That doesn't surprise me at all.
didn't have a Yeti of alcohol, and nobody else did either, right? And to your point about conditioning, now it's just like weird not to have a Yeti of wine or vodka or whatever it is while you're trick-or-treating. And that is bananas.
Yeah, your cooler that like, it has to be positioned and full. And I know. And I did a lot of Halloweens like that. And I can say some of my more regretful times have been the Halloween nights and the drinking and how little attention I was paying in to actual like safety and all of those things, because it was about, socializing and having the wine and having the giant Yeti. And do we have more? And do we need to run back to the house, scoot on down to the house and grab more? And
you didn't just bring the bottle with you in your purse and then top everybody up. You didn't do that. That's what I did.
Well, yeah, but then we would run out, and then still, because you only have so much room on your golf cart to like have, girl, I know. Well,
I'm glad we don't have to do that anymore.
I'm so glad we never have to do that again.
Yeah. Should we talk about boredom now?
And then we'll move into our exciting topic of boredom.
I have to say,
it's a favorite topic.
I really like it.
I do too. And see, there you go. This is the power of changing the pausing and paying attention to words we use and what they mean, and doing this work that we get to do where we can take something like boredom that used to like, I would break out in hives at the idea of being bored. But now it has such a different meaning because, I mean, gosh, I welcome boredom, like, because it's so much fun to be bored. But I used to be someone that was very, like, I did not like to be alone. I did not like to be by myself, alone and by yourself. That's the same thing. But I did not like to be alone. I did not like to be still and quiet and all of that. That was a fate worse than death. That was boredom. And no, I did not want that. So it perpetuated that hustle and that busyness and the doing and the go, 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 go. And yeah, so I was super averse to boredom 5 years ago. How about you?
Yeah, 100%. I related like crazy related to this client because she had a really busy working lawyer husband who didn't come home until the wee hours of the morning, similar to how Chris was. And she said, I drink to fill the gap between when I get home and when he gets home, right? Because there's just this space and there's nothing to do. And so this is where I think like the I drink because I'm bored story is so interesting, because these are also women, right, that we both work with that are like high-flying CEOs, moms of quadruplets, and like crazy like schedules, right? And then they're like, I'm bored. And I'm like, sister, how in the world are you bored? You literally had the busiest freaking day I've ever heard of in my life. You've had zero time for yourself. Maybe instead of I'm bored, like I do need that alone time, or I do need that rest, or I do need that time out, whatever it is. And so it's like, I think it's also this massive reframe. If you're bored, then you have time. And aren't we always desperate for time and peace and quiet?
Yes. And don't we want to use that time intentionally versus, which is where I think boredom gets, kind of coupled together as that habit when it becomes just, I always say that easy button that I used to hit, and I can relate to your client who was kind of filling that gap, so to speak. For me, it was also kind of filling that gap between like, supper time, getting home from work, or when I was a stay-at-home mom, that time.
Do people in the South call it supper? Where is that from? Well, is that your neck of the woods? Like, who says supper?
I know. I'm not sure. Some people do in the South. I don't know if it's a Southern thing. My grandmother did. So Southeastern. Yeah, I guess regionally, but not everybody does. It's kind of old school, I think. I think it's more old school than regional.
Now that I say that, like my most posh British friends that are super old school, but are like 30, 40, or 5, they say supper. And so I think you're actually just cooler than me.
Oh,
But
yeah. Well, no, that's only if you say supper with a British accent, which was not bad.
what was that?
I don't know. That was like that was not good.
All right, I totally interrupted you. I'm sorry.
This is where Holland would be like, Mom, you are so cringy. Stop right now. Yeah. So it just becomes that like automatic, easy button thing that we do to fill the gap, or the mindless. It's that mindlessness. And I think that that's where, like, to your point of offering this massive reframe around boredom, it's like, wow, if we have that opportunity to be quote unquote bored, why not use it intentionally for something that is going to fuel us later? And that was, gosh, I mean, that hour, that wine o'clock hour for me, for sure, was kind of just a catch-all for like, I don't know what to do with this time before supper, before I start making supper or bathing the kids or whatever. And I'm uncomfortable. I am tired. I do reserve. It kind of is that kind of catch-all, I think. And so, that ability to look at that and go, okay, this actually is time that I get to, how do I want to feel for the rest of the night? Is it gonna, is wine gonna affect that or not? How's wine gonna contribute to that?
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think it also has so much to do with, we get to a certain age, and if we've been lifelong drinkers, like, we don't know what to do to fill that space.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
True.
Like, I've had clients say, well, I don't even know what I like to do for fun or to fill the time, because like my hobby has always been drinking, right? And so it's a reframe of like, instead of I don't know what to do with my time, like, oh my gosh, I have this time. What might I get to do to enjoy it, And so I just think, again, it's a different way of looking at it, but it's an opportunity, it's a huge opportunity.
How many, well, I mean, I'm sure you've had, but clients who, like, their fear is, if I continue stepping into this alcohol-free lifestyle, like, how am I going to fill that time? Because, which is something that for me was like, oh, I get more time added to that was one of the craziest realizations and surprise gifts, was like, I get time added to my days because I'm free from alcohol, because of, I've talked before, like the time that's freed up from the thinking about planning, prepping, recovering, self-loathing about, and then the actual time drinking. There's this addition of time, free time in my day, but I also have to remember how scary that is, the fear around that for a lot of folks when they're starting this journey. It's like, well, I am going to have this free time, and that makes me uncomfortable. Like, what is that about? And that's where I would say that boredom also in this umbrella is that this place, we're not good at being bored because we're so scheduled, we're so busy, we're so like, our culture is so fast and constant. And, all the distractions that we have from our phones and social media and all those things, it doesn't allow us to be really good at just having idle time to do stuff. And that's where I always encourage clients to notice, like, start tracking how, like, if they find that themselves in that space, like, let's get comfortable. If you find yourself bored, set a timer for 3 minutes and just sit in that boredom. That's going to be your experiment before you do anything else. And then, and kind of like build from there, because once we get comfortable with being bored, that's also where we have that, we see it as an opportunity to your, like you said, to like fill that space. Oh my gosh, we get to fill that space. This is time back in your day, y'all. Like, this is time that, like, added to your day that you get. But the fear is real.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think that has a lot to do with, because, in those places of boredom is when the thinking starts, and then the emotions start, and all of that. And we're just not, I mean, I wasn't, right? Like, I didn't know how to do that, or to sit with that, and how to process feelings, and how to process thinking. And am I everything that I'm thinking in this moment, right? And like, none of that is even true. But I don't know. Yeah, I think it's because we're afraid to feel.
Yeah, and I also take it a step further and say, like, I didn't even know that was something that I wasn't doing. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing that we could do, or like, I just was completely oblivious to And I would have said that I was someone that I thought was pretty in touch with, my feelings and pretty in touch with, the mind. And, I've always been into that kind of like work or whatever. But I didn't have a carved out space where I was bringing attention to that. I didn't have any space where I was bringing attention to that, carved out or not. And so if we're not doing that, then it is very like foreign to us. And so, finding that opportunity to, what do we like to do outside of the drinking? This is that great opportunity. And also, how do we handle when we find ourselves uncomfortable? Like it's this great kind of, I find it to be like an excavation kind of sorts, where you like get to, we've talked about this before too. Like one of the favorite things I like to ask clients is like, what did you like to do when you were a kid? And thinking back to that, like I used to love hopping on a beach cruiser and riding my bike. Like that is so fun and freeing to me. Now I can't do that before supper time every night. I guess I could, right? Who says I can't? Maybe I will. Local people, when you see me around cruising, you'll know. But thinking like back to like when we were children, before our lives became so scheduled and busy and all of those things, and going, oh wow, okay, this is something I enjoyed. I enjoyed painting or drawing or writing. And so how can I get to bring those things back into my life in a way and see what I like now? Do I still like those things?
Yeah. I love that so much. And I wrote a chapter about this in the book that is not coming out, you guys, for a whole nother year. So don't get too excited. But I think the boredom and filling the gap is that time where you actually get to get really clear about what your purpose is, right? It's when you can actually think that through of like, what's the mark I want to leave? What's my legacy? What did God place me on this planet to do? So there's an amazing Bible study by Jenny Allen. So it's called Get Out of Your Head, a study in Philippians. And it's obviously based on the book of Philippians. And she says, you and I were made to be part of an eternal story centered on the unyielding purpose of our service to an unmatched God. We were meant to live intentionally rather than floating around trying to be cozy. And I was like, oh, that's so good, because that's what we do.
So true.
We're sold this lie that we're supposed to be cozy and feel good all the time. And if anything feels uncomfortable, let's quickly get rid of that and numb it out and all that stuff. But what we're really supposed to be doing is serving others. Like we're given a purpose on this planet. And I think the boredom is the time that opens up the space to think of that stuff, Like even in the nights, I did this last night, in the nights when I couldn't fall back asleep after the dog was barking. I was thinking about all the things you and I can do together, and like what we can do for this podcast, and where is it going to go next, and all of this stuff. And so as much as it's annoying to be up in the middle of the night bored, it's where all the best thinking comes. Are you going to talk about the shower?
Yeah. No.
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 I thought you were going to say I do my best thinking in the shower, because that's me too. Go ahead. Sorry.
Close. You're not wrong. But no, I was going to say, that time.
I love that we're also wagging our pens at each other.
I'm like getting so excited. I'm like, yes, girl, I'm right there with you. That boredom breeds creativity.
Yeah.
That is the space of creativity. And that was my point that I forgot to circle back to a few minutes ago.
Oh, sorry. I probably interrupted you.
No, not at all. I just lost my train of thought. Surprise. But like if we're going back to like thinking about what we enjoyed as kids, and then similarly taking that kind of mindset, kids are so creative. It's because when they have unstructured time, they don't have the busy and the hustle and the schedules and the blah, blah, blah that we have. They get to create. And when we are creating, hello, like we are living into the image of our creator. Like that creative space is so huge. But creativity does not happen if we're not allowing that space for it to be called forward or to pay attention to it. It doesn't happen. And that has been something that I have learned it just keeps getting reinforced these last 4 years for me, is that when I can have unstructured, unscheduled time that I would have in the past avoided like the plague and, called boredom, that is the time where I love it so much. Not that I love waking up at 4 a.m. and doing it, but to your point too, that is often where, the ideas come. And
Yeah.
there's nothing like that. They were not, those waking up at 4 a.m. before was a lot different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A lot
100%. We don't have to get on my soapbox about this right now, but this also is what makes me so nervous about kids and phones, right? Because they don't have a chance to get bored, and therefore they don't have the chance to be creative. And I have to be better about modeling my own Instagram behavior in this house. But like, it's true. They don't have the opportunity to get bored because there's something in their face all the time, which is also, by the way, they've connected a lack of drinking in like younger generations, right? I'm not talking about our kids' age. I'm talking about older, obviously, but because they don't actually have any time to like get to this place of like, I'm scared because I'm bored, therefore I'm going to drink, because they have something in their face all the time. There's always something to entertain them, which is wild. Yeah.
Well, girl, we
don't have to. We could probably do a whole episode on that. We don't.
don't get me going on this one.
I know.
But I'm with you on that. That's a great point. Yeah. Okay. And if you think about
the pen is wagging. The pen is wagging.
You know, I can't talk without my hands. Like if someone like if I sat on my hands, I would not be able to have a conversation.
Are you Italian?
I should try that. No.
You're not? No. You don't look Italian.
No, why?
Because you're doing this.
Oh, because I'm talking with my hands. No, I was like, that was not an Italian accent. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
This has just gone off the rails. We spend a lot of time not being bored. Let me just tell you.
Yeah.
We fill that boredom. But yeah, like, I don't know.
I'm sorry. It's my fault because I keep interrupting you and asking you stupid questions like, what do you really say supper? And are you Italian? And do you think of the shower?
Boredom, children, cell phones.
Were you about to go off about the cell phones? Okay, yeah, there you go.
I got it. The pen is wagging. It's back. So like the best way to influence our children to be able to cope with boredom, or to be able to, not have easy buttons and take structured breaks from electronics and all that. I mean, and it's one of those that I'm like, really, really? Okay. All right. Is to model it. Like you said, like be better about it yourself. And that is something that's always like, we're getting ready to mix things up here in the Shirley household. And we have a little family meeting coming up, and we're putting some of these exact things in place too, but as much for ourselves. We're like, okay, if this is what we're, putting in for the kids, like this is going to be a whole team. This is going to be, phones and lockers, and, after a certain point and certain times of day when nobody can use their phone, like it's to carve out that space, number one, from the electronics. And then number two, that just idle time that if we can get I know for a fact that was a big part of why I hit open the bottle of wine every single night. It was that unstructured idle time and my discomfort with it. So having starting a little practice of sitting in the discomfort of nothing to do is a great way to start kind of. I did that like back when before I ever started this journey. It was the 5 minutes driving in my car, no phone, I didn't call anybody, no listening to iPods, no music, nothing. I had to drive.
They don't make iPods anymore. iPods are not a thing.
Oh, you're right. I didn't mean iPod. I meant podcast. Podcast. For podcast? Yeah. I wasn't listening to them, no. Well, anyway, yeah, you're right. I don't know why I said iPod. I didn't have an iPod. How did we listen to music 5 years ago?
CDs. No, that wasn't 5 years ago. No.
Yeah. 5 years ago, how did we listen to music? On our phones, somehow.
Yeah, Spotify was around.
Yeah. Okay. Anywho, that 5 minutes starting out, like, first, like, on my way out the door, first thing I did, get everyone dropped off. It was 5 minutes, silence, driving that was boredom, I would say. That was boredom. But it was also like intentional time, getting comfortable, learning to be comfortable in the nothing, like not talking to anybody, not doing anything, not listening to anything, just being. And it became, it's not a practice that grew and grew and grew to where now, I mean, I try to do a 45-minute to an hour quiet time every day, every morning. And I love that. I crave that time now versus in the past where I had no tolerance for that time. I had to be busy. So
Yeah. So in your 45-minute quiet time, what does that mean? Does that mean like reading the Bible and praying, or it just means sitting there quiet?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's all part of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the stillness part of it is also so important, right? Because that's so when you get to hear, and I think that all of these times where we do have space, like end up for me, like being just like prayer time, they're just like automatic, which is so nice because it's not a, throwaway prayer at the end of the day. It's like a constant conversation, which is so boredom, I think, has like transformed my prayer life too,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you brought that up because I've noticed the same thing. I don't have anything to do right now. Like, what a gift. And what can I do? How do I want to use this time? I mean, just in conversation with God, like what a great opportunity that pays dividends versus wine that's going to take. Wine is going to take from that. Like you're going to pay a price and that is it.
Yeah, so true. I also think there's another part of the boredom conversation, which is drinking to make boring things more bearable.
Oh, let's yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is so like just what I did, right? Like anything that I thought, but then, I mean, I'm all over the place. So, but then everything seemed boring, right? Without a drink in your hand. And it's because when you've hijacked your dopamine, everything does seem more dull, right? Because your pleasure threshold is just in the I don't know, in the gutter. And so you end up feeling like nothing is fun without alcohol. You end up feeling like you need alcohol to make anything boring more fun, and anything without alcohol is boring.
I think it all gets commingled together for sure. It's also the idea that if I'm not drinking, I am going to be bored. And so therefore, like you just said, like that alcohol makes things more fun. But what about the fact that there are things that we just don't enjoy doing? And So then why are we doing the things if it's
why
optional?
Are we doing the things?
What it does is it exposes the things that actually it's not that it's boring without alcohol. It's that it's boring and not something I want to be doing anyway. And so if it's optional, why not just not do the thing? Like, and then you don't need alcohol or to waste your time. And then you have free time. Hello.
If anybody has been on the PTA with me in the past, I apologize in advance for what I'm about to say. PTA is not fun. Class drinks are not fun. And making small talk with competitive mothers is not fun, right? It's not fun. And you know what?
It's never going to be fun.
I don't go anymore.
It's not fun with alcohol. It's not fun without alcohol. It's just not fun. So why not eliminate it like you have? Like that's something you get to do. And that is one of my favorite things about having a client who's like stepping into that alcohol-free lifestyle and they're starting to kind of like gain their stride and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been doing XYZ for years. Turns out I was so afraid to like not drink because then how was I going to do this thing? Turns out I don't actually really enjoy doing that. And now I've let that go. And oh my gosh, I've gained all of this time to actually now go, oh, I would like to do this instead. Or, I mean, that is, it's massive.
Yeah. And then that comes in, I was just going to say, should we do like a little role playing here? Because the thing that I used to think, right, is so, okay, Lo, so let's pretend you're my coach, okay? We're just doing this live as we go, guys. We didn't rehearse this. All right, you're my coach.
Yes.
And I've decided that I hate the PTA.
Yes.
And I don't want to go to class drinks anymore because it really stresses me out and it makes me want to drink. But Coach Mead, I feel like I should go.
Oh, yeah.
Coach me, coach.
So, Christy, well, first of all, like, whose voice is that? When you say, I should go, whose voice is that? Whose voice are you listening to there?
All the other moms at school.
So all the other moms are telling you, you should.
Mm-hmm.
They've said this to you. You should go.
No, they haven't said it to me, but I feel like they are saying it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, Coach Mead, is that a story I'm making up?
Could it be true that they are saying that? Maybe. Could it also be true that they're not saying that? So is it possible that that is not true? That you shouldn't go?
Highly possible. It is highly possible.
And also, when you use the SH, the should, I always say that points directly to the shame. Like there's some kind of like shaming yourself. So whether it's other people or your own voice, you're shaming yourself. Where does that come from?
I don't know. I think it's just, it has to do with all these things that we think that we're supposed to do as moms, right? It's be on the PTA, go to all the things, get the kids into the right schools. And if you don't look perfect and you don't exercise 5 times a week and all these things, it means something as a mother.
Says who?
The story in my head.
Yeah.
That's not true. Mm-hmm.
And the shoulds that they point to the shame. Shame is the favorite weapon, one of the favorite weapons of evil, really. Right? Like, I mean, it's, yeah. So what feels better to you, Christy? I should do that, and so therefore I'm going to go. And what is that? How do you show up when you should yourself in that way?
Resentful, angry, pissed off. Yeah.
Is that how you want to show up?
I don't want to show up like that, Coach Mead. I really don't.
So what do you see as a little opportunity to try something differently? Where's your angle for trying something new?
I'm quitting the PTA.
Yeah, girl. Quit that PTA. They really just want your money anyway, so as long as they've got that, right?
Oh, that was such a good coaching session. 5 stars.
Oh, well, you're such a great coachee. But really, I mean, that is, how many times do we hear that in so many different ways? It's, I should do this. Like paying attention to that voice in your head. Whose voice is it? Is it really coming from other people? That's a different topic altogether. But chances are it's something that you're telling yourself. And I said this, the daughter will rename nameless to protect the innocent. But
you only have to.
I know. Well, yeah, you got to guess which one. She was like trying to look for something and she couldn't find it. And she was like, oh, there it is. And then she used her name. I'm like, whoa, hold up, sister. I'm like, you cannot talk to my girl like that. And so like it gave her this pause. I mean, it was a little over the top and I made a big deal about it, but seriously, so that she could pay attention to how the way that she's talking to herself. So the way that we talk to ourselves makes a huge difference, or it completely influences how we're going about our day, what we're choosing to do. And so the fact that you, Christy, recognized that you have this voice that says, I should go. It's like, well, is that true? No,
yeah.
Like, where is that coming from? And by the way, like when you're shoulding yourself, this is the results of that. When you're not, you're like, I could go to PTA. Do I want to go or not? Take the shoulds and turn them into coulds. That's a great, easy little hack. Or the have tos to the get tos. Yeah, and paying attention to that. That's the stuff that if we learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable with boredom, so to speak, or that idle time that we find, that free time that we have, that's that opportunity to really create a different trajectory for the rest of your day, your week, whatever. Paying attention to that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true.
I guess we should land the plane.
Okay, we're landing the plane early.
I mean, we can keep talking, but yeah, I think we could land that plane.
What's your teeny tiny? I know I can't say it. Tiny Tina. What's your Tina? Oh, good Lord.
Don't we make
Help us.
Don't we
Who gave us a podcast?
Don't we make alcohol-free living look like so much fun? I don't know. I don't
we
know.
do.
Yeah. No, we do. We get to be like children. We get to be silly like children. I mean, what is more fun than that? Yeah, so tiny Tina for our listeners, should you choose to accept the Tiny Tina for the week, you have two options. Quit the PTA. Keep giving your money, but you don't have to go. We're freeing you from your responsibility. You do not have to go to the PTA anymore. Number two, or set a timer for 3 minutes and do nothing. Do nothing.
I like it. It's good.
And just sit there and just do nothing. And then in a week from now, set it for 4 minutes. And then a week from there, set it for 5 minutes. And literally, you have no job, nothing to do. I don't get, like, you just have to sit for 3 minutes. When the timer goes off, you can go about whatever you're doing. And then in the 4th week, you can add it twice a day. And then in the 5th week, you can add it 3 times a day or whatever. Like you can keep building on. You won't have to get that far because what you're doing is you're building that ability to be in that space. And not only is this like a boredom hack, but y'all, this is a hack for living consciously, for living intentionally, for stepping into your life in a mindful, purposeful, willful way versus the reactive autopilot / sleepwalking / chaos and rigidity that a lot of us are accustomed to. So it's not a tiny Tina. It's a pretty big Tina.
It's a big fat Tina.
It's a big fat Tina. Oh my gosh.
I'm not going to add anything to that Tina because she was so good. She was a great one. Oh my gosh. All right, thanks, ladies. Thanks for coming.
If you made it this far in the podcast, you're welcome, or I'm sorry. I don't know. We love you. Thanks. Hey,
thanks. See you next Monday.
Please reach out and tell us what you want to talk about. I promise, if you give us something, we will talk about it. I promise. Yeah. I'm making that promise on both of our behalves. Like, you hit us with your questions, you hit us with like the burning, but what about this? We will cover it.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a form to do that in the show notes where it says connect. So we would love to hear from you. Yay. See you next Monday. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. You can find all of our episodes at butjesusdrankwine.com. And make sure you follow us over on the gram at Love Life Sober with Christy and Mead at I'm Not Sober, I'm Free.
To learn more about what we do, you can visit our websites at meadhollandshirley.com and lovelifesober.com.
Take a screenshot of this podcast and share it with a friend or two.
And don't forget to subscribe so you don't have to worry about missing a single episode. And if you love what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify.
This helps more women who are feeling stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle to find hope and encouragement.
Thanks, ladies. We so appreciate you. We'll see you next week.